Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of AGORACOM, in which we take the time to speak with small-cap executives via satellite to discuss important news and developments. With us today, again, I'm very happy to have Bernard Tourillon. He's CEO and Chairman of Uragold Bay Resources. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol UBR. Now, for those of you that are new to the story, and that's going to be most of you, this is not your typical junior resource company, okay? Uragold is a gold and high purity quartz exploration company, but they're focused on generating free cash flow from mining operations. And the way they want to do that is their business model is centered on developing mining projects that are suited for smaller scale startup capital expenditures under $10 million that will generate high yield returns. Now, how they plan to do that, the company wants to reach these goals by developing Quebec's first placer mine in 50 years. And the two projects they've got are the Boss Placer project that we're going to be talking about today, and as well as the Bellechasse-Timmins gold deposit that they have in partnership with Golden Hope Mines. The company's press release on October 22nd was that they received conditional approval from the TSX Venture Exchange to acquire the 32 remaining claims from FanCamp, and here to talk about that more is Bernard. Welcome to the show, Bernard.
Hi there. How are you?
So, really good. It looks like you're better than me because you've got some, really good news that you're putting out, and that we're here to talk about.
Yeah, well, it's an ongoing process. It's ever since the acquisition, we signed the deal to acquire the FanCamp properties. Things have started to evolve and move much faster, and that's part of that. Now it's just a regulatory process. The press release is just to inform that the process is advancing well. The regulatory's requirements to close a transaction are not onerous, not difficult for us to reach. It'll actually give us an opportunity to update our technical report that we've done not long ago with a lot of new information, because we now control the entire 6 kilometers of the paleo placer that we're looking to start mining.
And hold that thought, because I want to take everyone through the process here, because a lot of people are new to the story. So explain to everyone at home why this isn't just another claims press release, because you see these people acquire claims. Why is this not just another claims press release? Why is this so important to the company?
In the previous press release, not the one where we divulged the acquisition,
September 17th, back on September 17th.
There's a map in it. Our business model is to generate cash flow from a paleo placer that we've delineated, or actually it was delineated in the 80s by Roche, Laval University, and the Geological Council of Canada. We've done some work in 2010 which really confirmed the material that it's there. The channel is still there, the gold is still there, and everything else. And our plan is to start mining on that first kilometers, which we've started to work on and delineate. The problem was mining that 3 kilometers would only take us 3 years, so it was sort of a cap project. But it was still looking at, on the lower barren of the potential that we've declared was 23,000 ounces all the way to 140,000 ounces. But even if we just mined the 23,000 ounces of gold, it was a profitable project, but it was limited in a 3-year scope.
Sure.
Now, most of the drilling that I mentioned from Roche, Laval University, and Geological Council of Canada wasn't geologically limited, geographically limited to the 1 kilometer where our claim was. It was actually over the entire 6 kilometer of the channel, right?
Of which you held about 25%, and FanCamp held about 75%. So now you've got 100.
Exactly. We held, and what we did is we basically, to bring about a transaction, is we physically owned the land on top of some of the FanCamp claim. We also own the land on top of ours, in addition to the claim. But now we have that entire channel. It's just a continuation of ours. In some of the maps we've done to delineate our first resources on the area we were working on, or just we're looking at the database. Some holes were basically drilled at the limit, so we couldn't take the entire amount of gold there. So we know that the gold is there. It's a historically proven fact. The work that was done in the 80s was extremely well done. The problem was at that time gold prices was at 800, and nobody really had a vision it was a paleoplacer deposit. Okay, what our work did is
explain to people why that's important. Just really quickly, give everyone a 30-second. What's the difference between paleoplacer and everything else? Because I know it, but I want to make sure everyone at home really understands that.
The biggest difference is the placer. Usually, you get that in a river. So basically, it's gold. It's water movement that brings about in concentrate gold. It's through water movement. So you got a round pedal and everything else. So the gold distribution would be very erratic in the water channel because you don't know what was the ancient riverbed. I can give the example of an S. Okay, if you drill holes between there, and hit the river at every time, you can make the assumption you have a straight line of gold. All right. When you start mining it, you have nothing because it actually goes like this. That's been one of the issues with typical placer. Well, when you have something like ours is a paleoplacer, which means the gold is liberated from the source, got eroded, but did not travel very far away. It wasn't reconcentrated by water. You basically have a long line of multiple sources of gold that have fed the network, and we're at the bottom of a valley, so we know that gold nuggets don't go uphill over valley. And 3 of the biggest gold nuggets in Canada were found on our properties now. Okay.
So that's what the important part is for everyone to understand that it's not hard to give everyone a sense for this. It's not going to be hard for you to get to the gold at the end of the day, right? Let's talk about the capex. How it's not going to require a big capex expenditure. It's going to scare the hell out of everybody.
No. There's no big capex. Well, I'll put a caveat so people want to say, "Oh, going to come to the property and going to pan it." There's 40 meters of overburden, so the odds are you'll get nothing. It's like I just want to make sure that people don't try to go on a property first. It's private property. You won't be allowed to do it. And second of all, you got to dig to 40 meters of depth to get it. So we'll find you before you get there. We have security guards. We have everything there. So no, but the point is the capex are not outside of reach. We're talking less than $10 million capex, probably around $8 million. Around the $8 million. Well, actually, no. In our technical report, we did mention it was about $8 million to get us there.
Right, so
and that's the key point is that's the non-optimized. Okay, because at the stage when we do the preliminary capex, those type of information, we don't try to optimize the process. Okay, optimizing the process might end up cutting $1 million in capex and cutting a few, getting the efficiency more and more lower.
Now,
because you get.
Yep. So for the sake of everyone at home, in essence, this is not, and this is what we're trying to drive to here. This is not a case of we've acquired some claims. Now for the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to be doing more drilling to find out what we really have. You're pretty much ready, if I'm hearing you right. You're pretty much ready to raise the to raise the money, and start producing. So if we talked about this last time, but for the sake of the new people, if you got your $8 million today, how long would it take you to quote unquote begin production and start the production process where you actually start to produce gold?
It hasn't changed from everything. I would still dare to figure like 6 months from the moment we get the funding, we'll have our first gold poured out. Okay, and something like 12 months after that, we'll be in full-scale production. That hasn't changed. The difference between when you acquire land just to do exploration and everything else, and in our case, what I did is I acquired land because I knew I had the continuation of deposit, so I can have more years of mining it. I have really no big work to do that's going to come out. That's one of the things in the press release we mentioned is, so the TSX asked me to come up, or was going to ask my qualified person to come up with a phase 1 work to be done in the next 6 months. Well, there's a good chance that there'll be nothing done on the new properties we acquired. We'll do the work required to make sure we can maintain them, keep them going, get the work doing.
But you begin with what you already know, and then once
where we are,
then you move out.
Just we're going to focus. We might do 1, 2, 3 holes just outside, see the continuation about, but there's no obligation for us to do this. It was the key issue for us was to increase the potential life of mine of the project, and now we know that we have a potential life of mine that's in the 10-year bracket, which is what the investors that we are focused to talk to are interested.
People want to talk about financing the project. They say because you've tripled you've gone from 25% to 100%. So essentially, you've tripled your actual holding.
Yeah,
so it makes sense that you.
Yeah, we tripled it, and just to give you an idea on our potential, we had a potential declared of 23 to 144. Okay, we've now jumped to 61 to 380,000.
And let's make that so 23,000 ounces to 144,000 was your range before the acquisition of these final 32 claims. Now it's 61 to
366,000.
All right, so there's your bandwidth at the end of the day. That's
But people have to remember that when we designed the original mining to mine the 23,000 ounces of gold, the reason why we were going forward is when we looked at our internal matrix, we were still going to be we still had a very profitable project for just that 23,000 ounces of gold. I'll put all the caveat on the fact that this information is internal, cannot be divulged.
I was going to ask you that. So, are you able to come out with a feasibility study, or is there anything, or is that something you're just going to keep internal, start generating cash flow, and let the money speak for itself?
LB, for the first phase, phase of work, where we're going to be working, optimizing, we'll keep it in. We'll just use internal work. Okay. Once we'll go to full-scale operation, we will publish everything. But we'll probably publish our feasibility study the same week that we start full-scale production.
So, Bernard, is this the new model? Because I remember 3-4 years ago, industry people, financiers would say, if you don't have a minimum of 1 million ounces, we don't even want to look at you. So people are trying to find 1, 2, 3, 4 million ounce deposits. But the problem was, and the problem now is, that the capital expenditure is just too high, because to find that amount of gold usually means you got to be somewhere remote, somewhere very deep, a lot of technical issues. So you're talking about capexes of 100 million, 200 million, 300, 400 million dollars, and that number is just not available anywhere. There isn't anybody raising that kind of money. It's just not available anymore. So is this the new model where it's small, very nimble, very profitable, less than $10 million capex, produce anywhere between 60? Is this going to be the new model for a while, or is this just unique to guys like Uragold at the end of the day?
I think it's going to be a new model coming online for a very simplistic reason. Is a lot of time is actually it seems new to you, but it's been our business strategy since the beginning. We took this one. The reason being is at one point you can never feed the beast. You can never satisfy the financiers of whatever their criteria meet. And when you work to meet the financier, you end up doing stupid projects. In the sense, if you need 2 million ounces, yeah, I got 2 million ounces. I got 1.5 million. I can't freaking mine economically, but I got 2 million ounces. Well, it doesn't change anything. And because that was at one point where the market was saying you got to drill it to find the 2 million, I heard those speeches. Okay? I'm not trying to finance with these people. These are not the guys I'm approaching. I'm approaching guys that like to finance a 10 million size project, have a 10-year life of mine. They're not going to be out in 3 years, having probably double or triple their money. They're going to be gone. Those are the people I'm looking for. The billion-dollar project, the business plan is you needed those size that get bought off by majors. We saw that would happen with those type of things. I actually believe that there is an opportunity, a great opportunity, when you look at a project and says, can I make money doing this, mining this project? It's not going to be all projects going to be able to do that, because some of them will be big enough, they'll be a big mine and be able to develop, but there's a massive amount of information, massive amount of work, millions and billions of dollars spent in exploration and thrown out because it doesn't meet the criteria or what the financier decide this date's not good. You and I both know if I have a project when I'm going to be generating decent cash flow, decent return, decent profit, in a decent timeline, I'll get the financing. Okay, and in my case of the project, or in our case of the project with Uragold, what we discovered was, because we were basically surrounded by fan camp and we only had a 3-year life of mine that we looked at when we presented the project, that was the scariness. If I make a forward gold sale with somebody, he's going to probably ask me, I want these to cover my, let's say, the $8 million capital. That's between 6,000 ounces of gold and 9,000 ounces of gold they'll need to secure themselves to be able to move forward. Okay. If I have 23,000 ounces of gold potential, even my potential goes to 140,000 ounces of gold, the financiers are just going to look at my worst case number. Okay, says, well, you only have 23,000. If you have 23 and you're committing 10,000 to me, project is risky. Now I've moved it up to 61 to $300,000. Let's forget the 300,000 ounces. Let's talk about the 61,000 ounces of gold. 9,000 to 6. It's not a big. I'm not giving away the farm. I'm not giving away the farm. I'm giving away everything, and I have much more flexibility. Those are the type of projects you're going to get listened to. Those are the projects that have actually been financed in the world. They've always stayed private. Okay. A lot of companies have done this in the private sphere. I'm one of the few ones, or actually I think I'm the only one, well, no, you've named a few in the other space, but one of the few ones in gold that's doing it publicly. That's the only difference. If this was a private corporation financed through everything else, there wouldn't be those type of discussion. But the people would put their money privately and says, this is a good project, move forward. And I now know, yeah.
Well, it's refreshing. I got to tell you, it's refreshing because I think the industry needs to see some cash flow generating, real businesses at the end of the day, right? That's what we need to find. So it's clear that you're confident enough that you've got it. There's a reason, FanCamp. Let's not forget. We'll end off on this note. FanCamp is a great group. They're sophisticated. They know what they're doing, and they made this deal with you and Uragold in exchange for shares at the end of the day to become a major shareholder. So that in itself tells me a lot. That's what I call the third-party validation. Because at the end of the day, Bernard, anybody at home would expect you to say nothing but great positive things because that is the nature of being the leader of a company, right? So I've always said to people, okay, you sound confident, I'm glad you do, but who else believes that you've got something here? And to me, the fact that FanCamp is willing to turn over such a big portion of this to Uragold in exchange for shares tells me a lot. That's great third-party validation. So let's end off on that note. What does it mean to have FanCamp as this big? They now become an insider of the company. If you read the press, if people won't read the press release, they become an insider of the company with the amount of shares that they're going to own.
Yeah, they'll own about 12%. The fully diluted basis, they'll probably own something like 20%. But you got to realize also that they get a 3.5% royalty on the gold we'll be extracting from their side of the property. And that's their business model. So we've been able to convince them that we've advanced the project and we can generate a royalty on it. To be totally honest, FanCamp was looking at this like everybody looks at it for the massive source of gold. Okay, because what we talked about is just the paleo placer. All right, you have to remember that the acquisition of the FanCamp, what it does also is we know the gold has a very local source. It hasn't traveled far. All right. Problem before is if I over-talked about the hard rock gold potential underneath, I was making FanCamp's property more valuable, so I couldn't really talk too much about them while I'm trying to negotiate. But now I have it all. So the thing is, gold doesn't appear out of nowhere. It doesn't get transported from space. It doesn't get beamed down there. It comes from the ground up. And our model is an auriferous till, and eroded. This is where the gold is. Okay.
And what I like about your model is you're going to start off with the placer, low capex, cash flow, and then at that point you can use the cash flow without having to dilute your company and constantly go back to the market begging for money. You can use that cash flow to then try and find the source at the end of the day. And and I'd love to see more companies like you. I think Uragold, is just starting to get a story out there, and but I think Uragold in the next couple of years may be, at the end of the day, the model, the peer model, the peer leader in this on the small cap side, where people say, let's do more deals like that one.
Yeah, I'll end with this. I remember when we started to get the geophysics that was telling us that it looks like the source is there, and we had indication of the source, how many people told me, you got to drill it? And I said, why should I drill it? Why should I spend money drilling, looking at the potential? I'm going to be mining the paleo placer, generating cash. Oh, lo and hold by default. I'll remove the 40 meters of overburden. I'll be seeing the targets in surface, so I'll know where to drill. And they all stop and said, oh, I'll be generating money as I do this instead of wasting money just to drill it, because it's going to be a nuggetry deposit underneath. We know that. So the mentality isn't yet there, but it's okay.
Well, Bernard,
Yeah.
you know, there was a time when people never thought in a million years that they'd be surfing the internet on their phones. People never thought they'd leave their desks at the end of the day, right? So it takes someone out there to be a visionary. It takes someone out there to break the mold. And Uragold is certainly one of those companies out there. There are a couple of other companies. You know, we're talking to Rob McLeod at IDM the other day also. So there are a couple of good visionaries with a very simple, clear-cut plan, path to profitability, and I'm looking forward to having you back on this show over the next 2-3 months on a couple more occasions as you move this, as you officially close the app, because I think you're planning for, when you plan to close, sometime in mid-November, end of November, to close the deal officially.
Sometime mid-November. Now we still have to finish the technical report, and you know, there's a lot of things we've done, but we haven't mentioned. We bought a license to a three-dimensional modeling software. Now we've added all the data over the 6 kilometers, so we'll have a 6-kilometer long three-dimensional model of the paleo placer. So that's pretty exciting. We want to add also FanCam's hard rock drilling information into it, just to get a little bit of the idea of the underneath model. So there's a lot of work that's been done just very discreetly.
All right. Well, a lot of work still to come, but I really like the sounds of what you're doing right now, and I want to thank you for taking out the time to, you just put this press release yesterday, so the fact that you're on here the day after to talk about it tells me a lot about your confidence and putting your face out there to really talk about your project, and we're excited about it.
Thank you.
You've been watching Bernard Tourillon. He's chairman and CEO of Uragold Bay Resources. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol UBR. Find them on the web if you to do your own due diligence, get more information about the company, or get over to AGORACOM, where we've already had, this is our third interview with the company, including the president, Patrick Levasseur, as well, where we talked about the high purity quartz side of the business. So get to AGORACOM, where you can get caught up on everything about Uragold Bay and hopefully converse with other investors out there on the internet. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you next time.